between fixed price, cost reimbursable. It's nothing too, crazy or wild. But sometimes we get some weird ones, and we get a lot of questions sometimes. Well, how do you know that this is fixed price, or how do you know that this is cost reimbursable? So we just thought we'd go over a few things that help us differentiate since we get the award and we set it up in the system. All right, next slide. There we go. So Cassie came up with, it was 2 truths and a lie, but I did it backwards in my head and I did 2 lies and a truth. So we're going to do 2 lies and a truth about fixed price, and just read through them and then post in your chat what you think the answer is. And we'll get into it. All right, we got 1 answer up. A couple, there we go. Now they're coming in. All right, Cassie, why don't you read them and then tell them what the truth is?
All right, so we have fixed price agreements will have a detailed budget instead of a payment schedule. The payment schedules are not tied to actual expenses or costs incurred, do not require financial reports, and any residual balance should remain with the subrecipient institution. And then we have fixed price agreements can be paid only at the end of a contract and for all expenditures posted. And so the correct answer is B. The payments are not tied to actual expenses or cost.
Good job, guys. So we got some pros in here. They know what fixed price are. Okay, I like it. Go ahead, Cassie.
All right, so for fixed price awards, a firm fixed price agreement, it's going to provide an agreed upon amount of funding for a specific deliverable or product. A reconciliation of costs incurred and funding received is not required by the sponsor, and deliverables must be provided to the sponsor even if the costs exceed the award amount.
Yes. So what this means, guys, is usually when we have a firm fixed price or a fixed price, they're saying, hey, we're going to give you this amount of money to do this thing, whether it's a deliverable or it's putting together a PowerPoint, I've seen YouTube videos, if we're, creating laser fiber, all of these different things can come over as a firm fixed price. And they say, hey, sorry, my foster puppies play with squeaky toys the whole time I do this. So there's a lot of different things. So also for firm fixed price, the reason it doesn't have the reconciliation of costs incurred is because they don't need to know how we spent every single penny. They're just like, hey, here's the money, get the job done, and let's keep moving forward. All right, I think we can go to the next slide.
So here are some ways. Oh, go ahead, Mary.
I was telling you, take it away, Cassie.
Oh, okay. So here are just a few ways that you can really identify some fixed price agreements off the bat. So you do have those awards that are very direct and say this is a fixed price agreement. So it makes it easy to know what type of agreement you're working with. Another identifier is a payment schedule. There are many awards that have amounts and deliverables tied together. And so that allows you to know how to go about in setting up that award.
So just real quick, can anybody else think of any other ways that you're able to tell if it's a firm fixed price if it doesn't specifically call it out? Because it doesn't always call it out. Does anybody have any go by rules that they use to always know which kind of award or agreement they're looking at? Yep, that's my favorite, keeping the money, right? That's what our faculty, they love that one. So that's a great one. Oh, and just a heads up, guys, if you do direct message me, it pops up, I guess, in the color red, and I can't see it. So I won't know that you're specifically talking to me. So direct message Cassie if you have like real specific questions, and she'll let me know. I'm colorblind, so I don't get the colors. So Oliver, you're asking if the excessive funds on a fixed price contract have restrictions. Do you mean like how it can be spent, or once it becomes given to the institution? And Mario, you're exactly. Sometimes you just get a list of dates and deliverables, and sometimes there's prices attached to those, and sometimes there's not, right? Oliver, so what I've noticed is I've only had 2 fixed price agreements where they actually said you have to give the remaining funds back. Here at UCF, our golden rule is, the funds can be spent on research activity. Sorry, my dog set off the Roomba, so it's now by my door. So what we say is we actually create what's called a balance account, and these funds go into that balance account, and the PI can use it any way they want as long as it's to serve sponsored research. They can hire grad students, PhDs, purchase equipment. So I think that if there are any restrictions, it will call it out in the contract saying these funds can only be spent this way or the funds need to be returned. But I've never had one tell us how we can spend it once it's given to the institution. And we do have a picture of the payment schedule, and this is often some things that you will see. Yep, must be used for research. It's absolutely right. Sometimes you'll get the payment schedule, and that's all you have to know that this is a firm fixed price, because it says, you're going to bill me 10,000 on this point, 10,000 on that point. We're going to give you 5,000 for this on these dates, and it's very specific. All right, we can pop over to the next slide, Shan.
All right, so I'll try to speak up here a little bit. Let's see if you can hear me now. So here are some additional tips and tricks to help determine a fixed price. So we have leftover funds will remain with the university. And sometimes the agency will not require a budget. Budget transfers will not require prior approval unless it specifically is stated within the award. And there will be a payment schedule attached in the award document.
So Mario, you mentioned sometimes you split it between your PI department or central office. Yeah, each university, I feel like they're going to have their own business process for that. We are currently, as we sit here and speak, we have our current business process is also being revamped and going to be put back out to the departments very quickly. We used to have a rule of UCF was, if it's a federal, you would get 10% of what's left or what's remaining, and the rest would go to Office of Research, actually. And if it was non-federal, you got up to 20%, and then the rest would go to Office of Research. I have seen some colleges where they say to their PI, like, hey, we will split this between the department and this. So there are plenty of different ways to do it. And like I said, we're currently waiting for our brand new SOP to come out for that. So there are definitely different ways that this can be handled. Has anybody ever had a fixed price where they required you to get prior approval on your budget transfer? Because I know usually when we do, budget transfers on firm fixed price, unless it specifically states that we have to get prior approval, we usually don't have an issue with it because we don't often get requests for budgets for firm fixed price either. They just tell us point blank, like, hey, we're going to give you this much to do this thing. And whatever it entails for you to do this thing, it's all included in that amount of money. Yeah, I mean, like I said, the PIs can I don't know that the PI, it's not often that I see a PI charge their effort to a balance account. Usually I see them pay grad students or their tuition, their stipends, purchase equipment. I've seen them do travel for conferences to go present on the research that's being done. So there's a bunch of different things they can do, but I personally have never seen a PI charge their effort. I assume if they were maybe doing some summer, I'm not an effort person myself, so I really can't give an honest answer for that, but we could definitely ask our people who are involved in effort. And then we may ask for internal approval if originally the grant was supporting academic release time or students and they are reducing it. Yeah, so sometimes there are certain things you always want to be. Oh, here's Shrila coming in with it. Shrila Malik's on my team, and we call her the all-knowing because she knows it all. She said, PIs may charge the balance account for salaries if they are 9-month faculty and they are not covered for summer salary. Thank you for that, Shrila. I told y'all, Shrila knows it all. But yeah, sometimes you do have to get approval on budget transfers. And I've only ever seen it called out. And it is one of those weird things where if you're messing with directs and indirects, it gets a little weird because it's just kind of like a rule of thumb, like always get approval. So that's a great one to think about. All right, I think we're good to move to the next slide, Shan. Oh, here's that. I got it backwards. 2 lies and a truth thing. Go ahead and read them out, Cassie, and then we'll let some people get some answers in the chat.
All right, so we have cost reimbursable agreements will be based off a monthly date. Payments can only be made at the start of the project in order to comply with a cost reimbursable contract. Or cost reimbursement types of contracts provide for payment of allowable incurred costs to the extent prescribed in the contract. All right. So which one is true?
Which one are we saying is true? All right, we got some answers coming through. I don't know why you guys are here. Y'all are pros at this. Y'all already know how to tell what these are. So yes, the correct answer is cost reimbursement types of contracts provide for payment of allowable incurred costs to the extent prescribed in the contract. So let's go ahead and jump into the next slide and we'll let Cassie tell you what cost reimbursable agreements look like and how we know what they are.
So a cost reimbursable award, so funding may be provided by a sponsor on a cost reimbursement basis, which means that the university first incurs costs and then submits an invoice to the sponsor for payment. The award is issued based on an estimate of the costs of performing research and is often arrived at by negotiation between the funding agency and the university, and work should stop when all the funds are exhausted.
Yeah, because once all the funds are exhausted, the problem is if you overspend, the agency is only going to pay you up to what they're giving you as a total amount. Anything over, it's going to usually fall on the faculty members, college, or department to pay for that. So it's really, for cost reimbursement, you really want to pay attention to where your budget's at all times so that you're not overspending, because you don't want to, stick your college or your department with a huge bill that they were not expecting. Let's go ahead and pop over to the next slide, Shan. Here we got a couple of examples of what they look like. I'm going to let Cassie tell you about it. Go ahead, Cassie.
So we also receive those awards that can be very direct and let you know this is a cost reimbursable subaward. As you see within the examples there, in the highlighted portion, it shows clearly stated awards a cost reimbursable subaward. Additionally, the second portion there, you not only see that cost reimbursable compensation part, but you also notice the invoicing date that corresponds with the as incurred.
Yeah, and another thing you'll notice on the first picture is that it shall include current cumulative costs, including cost sharing, because cost reimbursable, the whole point of cost reimbursable is to say, hey, this is what we've done. This is how much we can bill for. So it's not like with a firm fixed price where you get a solid $10,000 and they're just like, okay, do what you need to do to get us this deliverable. For cost reimbursable, you really have to, they want to document every single charge and they want to see every single thing that they're being charged for. Another thing about cost reimbursable You don't get to keep the funds when you're done because they expect you to charge what you've spent. And if you have not spent it, they will not give it to you. So Shan, let's go ahead and pop into the next one. So now we're going to talk real quick and just talk about fixed versus cost reimbursable. What are some tips and tricks that you use to determine what type of award you're currently dealing with, other than the basic language of this is fixed or this is cost? How are you able to know like this will be cost reimbursable? What are some words that you've looked for in contracts or that you've noticed or seen throughout your time looking at these?
If silent to you, it is cost reimbursement.
In language that says report actuals or not specific. Yeah, those are some great ways to check it out. Some of the things that I've always looked for is I always look for that payment schedule for a fixed price, because sometimes it'll look, I'll start reading a contract and I'll see cost reimbursable here, cost reimbursable there, but then there'll be a payment schedule and it's like, oh, boom, 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 boom. We got another one.
This is also a good one.
What's that?
Oh, we were going to say the same thing.
Oh, yeah. Michelle says, if you can't tell from the award agreement contract, look back at the RFP guidelines. Yes, absolutely. So that's another thing that we have also in our bag of tricks with award management, is you can always go back to the proposal, because we use HRS, the Huron Research Administration Suite. And so we're able to go back and just click a button to hit the funding proposal. And usually they have everything listed out for us there. And so it makes it really easy to go back and find that RFP. And sometimes there's terms and conditions that they have at proposal stage that you don't necessarily see at award stage, because the terms and conditions are based off of the agency. Sometimes you have fixed price and cost reimbursement at the same time. We haven't gotten there. Shh, we're going up a spot. No, absolutely. You do get cost reimbursable components and fixed price components on certain types of agreements. And we are going to touch on that in a few minutes, actually.
Someone responded, sponsor site may provide general rules, which, yeah, that's a good reference. Yep, I also ask contracts. I'll go back to our contracts team and sometimes verify. And I've had one where I reached out to the sponsor just to verify, because the language wasn't necessarily very clear. So reaching out to the sponsor could be a good option as well.
Yeah, we actually just had one that we were dealing with where we were told, here's the amount of your ceiling. Here's $500,000 as your ceiling. And so we set up the award for the $5,000 ceiling, cost reimbursable. And then we end up digging in a little more with our contracts team. They kind of popped over and were like, hey, we noticed this weird clause on page 72, where we actually had a limit of obligation too. So we had a ceiling amount, but we were only allowed to use our limit of obligation. And basically as we spent, we're able to, submit to the agency saying, hey, here's where we're at, and they'll release that next increment of funding. But I've seen some really weird things that come from the sponsors specifically. Let's see, do we have anything else? We've had some awards with set payment schedule, but stating cost reimbursable applies, such as the reconciliation must be done at the end and unexpected funds are. Yep, that's that weird thing where sometimes it looks like it's going to be fixed price, but then you have to keep reading, and you finally, once you get to your billing side, they're like, oh, just so you know, this is actually cost reimbursable, but you do have a timeline. So there's so many different weird ways that you can get thrown off. And so that's a great example. And same thing. So when training a new person, you know, what's the one thing you can share with them to help their understanding? I mean, Cassie, you're pretty new. Shan, you're pretty new. What were some of the tips your mentors gave you guys to really like be secure in it? And are you like, were you secure enough to be like, I know exactly what this is?
Well, I know that one that was ingrained in me for like fixed price, you know, the payment schedule. They just said if there's payment schedule, you know it's fixed price. And then you feel really confident in knowing that it's fixed price until you get those awards where it's not very clear. But definitely the payment schedule is a big one.
Yeah, and like I said earlier, you know, just because you have that payment schedule, you always have to check your billing too. Shane, what about you?
I was just going to go ahead and piggyback off of Cassandra because I'm one of the newest, not the newest, but one of the newest award managers here. So I really do look for that payment schedule as my guide. But now that I'm hearing the different, you know, it depends responses, I'm like, oh, you know, that's another area for us to be checking. So, yep, that payment schedule has really been helpful for me.
Absolutely. And sometimes you might have to find that one section where it's like the remaining funds stay with the agency, and that's your trigger to be like, oh, okay, we get to keep the funds, and then we're good. It's fixed price. I have never seen a cost reimbursable where you get to keep the funds. So if any of you have, that's cool, and tell me who it was so we can link up with them. We got sometimes the sponsor change from fixed price. Yes, I've had that happen in the middle of a project, which for us, our old system, we would have to literally set up a completely new award to change the billing because you couldn't just go in and change the billing through that research suite. So I have seen that before. And I've even had where they go from, you know, fixed price, and then they say, oh, well, it's going to be on a cost reimbursable basis, but it's still the fixed price. It's the most bizarre stuff I've seen. Have you ever seen a contract that seemed like it could be both fixed and cost? How do you make the determination? Now that we've already kind of touched base on that, we know that that's definitely something you guys have seen. Let's go ahead and pop over to the next slide, Shan. We got a note here. When training a new person, I tell them do not just skip to the schedules and deliverables. Read through the contract if anything's coming. Yep, absolutely. I'm the same way. When I first started, it would take me like forever because I would sit there and read every single line of the contract, and like the person training me would just scroll and like hundreds of pages are flying by, and I'd be like, whoa, what just happened? Oh, you'll one day you'll be able to do this. And I was like, no, I feel like I'm skipping too much information. I feel like I need this information in my life. And I didn't need the information in my life, apparently, because you get used to it. But absolutely don't ever skip over when you're new, because it's just, contracts are a scary world, and they can be 3 pages long. They can be 2 sentences long, or they can be like 90 pages long. So now we're going to ask you guys a question. What type of agreement do we think that this is in front of us that we have on the screen? Okay, we got one thinking could be leaning towards cost. All right, we got a fixed. Shrila, what do you think this is? All right, good job, guys. We get some answers for in. That's awesome. So yes, guys, you are correct. This is a fixed. However, I have seen cost reimbursable set up exactly the same way. And it's the 50% that usually can throw people off. They're like, oh, well, like there's 50% of the award, but because it has that effective date and it has that very specific amount, it is a fixed price. This one is definitely fixed. Yep, it's fixed price based off of milestones and deliverables. Absolutely. All right, let's do the next one, Chan. Read this one and tell me what you guys think about this one. That's right. If the sponsor won't pay if they do not have that deliverable, that is absolutely true. What do you guys think this one is? Shan, I want to see what your answer is. What do you think this one is, Shan?
I am here as a moderator for the day. Go ahead and defer to the crowd.
Crystal, yes, you, like I just said, I have two of my new ladies here. Cassie's been here a little bit longer, but Shan came into this completely not knowing what we were talking about. And you do pick it up. Like I would say, you know, like after probably my first 6 months, I could flip through those contracts because I knew exactly what I was looking for. But even at this stage, sometimes they'll bring me a contract and I'm like, what is this craziness? And I'm like, why do you have to ruin my day with this crazy stuff? And it's usually Cassie or my other colleague, Mike. They bring me the craziest stuff. All right, so this agreement will become effective October 1 or on the date the agreement was signed by all parties. No cost incurred by the provider prior to the effective date of the agreement will be reimbursed. This is a cost reimbursable agreement. You are correct. And it's those little words, the reimbursement, right? And no cost, the reason this is no cost incurred by the provider before the effective date, that means they're not allowing 90-day pre-expenditures. So just in case.
So you would pull out the keywords no cost incurred and then
yeah. So the
reimbursement.
That's the one trigger for me to be like, okay, so because you know we're not gonna we're being reimbursed just for those expenses. All right, Shan, let's go ahead. We got one more. So take a minute, read through this one and tell me what you guys think this one is. Come on, Sharon, what you think this one is?
Just waiting on our amazing, engaging audience. I'm going to defer to you guys every time, right? Because I want to make sure that you guys got this down.
All right, so some of you who are saying cost reimbursable, what was it that made you think, or what told you that this was cost reimbursable? Come on, Danielle, I know you have secrets. What makes you think that this is cost reimbursable? That's right, work stops, incrementally funded. There you go. Excellent, guys. That's great. This is cost reimbursable. And this is that weird ceiling I was telling you about that we'll sometimes get. And then like that one that we had, that weird limit of obligation, but absolutely obligated. Yep. All of these things, you're absolutely spot on, guys. All right. So let's go ahead. And I think we got one slide left. And just in case we didn't leave you confused enough, here's the, can it be fixed price and cost reimbursable? Yes. It doesn't happen. I haven't personally seen it happen that often where it's, I see more, it's either cost or it's fixed. I have seen them. And so basically, it's known as a time and material award. Some of them are, not all of them. And what this means is that the subrecipient will pay the cost of the project and they can have a fixed price on the time. And I'm going to let Shrila pop on here with her chat because she is the guru of this fixed price cost reimbursable. So if you have anything to pop in there and throw in your chat, Shrila, please do. I personally have seen them more with Florida State. I know a lot of you guys are from out of state, so I know that every state's going to work differently, but especially like our Department of Transportation, they will give us contracts and the whole project everything on there is cost reimbursable except for the travel portion. We actually have to set up a whole new project to make the travel portion fixed price. It's something that when I first started here, I was like, this can't be right. I have to set up a whole new project just for them to travel. And absolutely, I had to do that. Fixed rate contracts. All right. Mostly private company. Yeah. I've seen these with mostly private companies. And here's Srila. There we go. Time and materials are also seen on flow through DoD awards. The labor's fixed component, materials, travel, and other costs are all incurred. Absolutely. And so it's always a mixed bag. And sometimes you really just have to rely on your gut. And sometimes I don't trust my own gut. So I will reach out to an agency just to confirm, because I don't want my faculty or my PI doing something that could possibly cause trouble down the line. And we never want to, you know, cost people in colleges any extra money than they've already like had to spend, because it's not something, you know, most departments and agency or colleges don't just have extra money sitting around for that too. Srila also said award letter will usually say time and materials in these instances. Absolutely. Oh, my Roomba got stuck on something. Kelly says, saw this combined pricing at a prior employer in NIH clinical contracts with patient care. Absolutely. That's some of the ones I've seen examples like that where it's the clinical contracts. Cost, yep, there you go, Maria. Cost reimbursable fixed, yep, billing. All right, guys. Do y'all have any questions, any thoughts, comments that you'd like to share with us? Please feel free. This wasn't a crazy long session, but I thought it was informative, and it's really an important part of contract and award setup is understanding your billing, because it's good for, you know, once it gets to grant accountants, so they are billing properly. Because if, you know, that automatic billing gets stopped, then they have to do manual invoices, and it just causes more work for everybody when it's wrong. With that being said, I am not perfect, and I definitely have messed these up before, but we have a great, you know, we work really well with our sister unit, the grant accountant team, and they always help us out when we get in a pickle like that. Oh, Deanna, you're just tooting my horn. That's all this is. All right, guys. Well, feel free to pop into other sessions if that's what you want to do. And if not, you can stay and chat here. But you guys have a great day. Thank you for joining our lunch session on fixed price and cost reimbursable agreements. Thank you, Melissa. Thank you. I try to be entertaining, because I've been to some presentations that were not fun. And you just kind of sit there and you're bored. Well, Shan's sharing everything with us. Go ahead, Shan. All right, guys, you have a great rest of your day. Enjoy the rest of FRAC, and hopefully we'll see you all again next year.